As you like it. There was once a wicked duke named Frederick, who became duke by sending his brother into exile. His brother was sent into the forest of Arden, where he lived the life of a bold forester, as Robin Hood did in Sherwood Forest in England. The banished duke's daughter, Rosalind, stayed with Celia, Frederick's daughter. The two loved each other more than most sisters. One day, there was a wrestling match at the court, and Rosalind and Celia went to see it together. Charles, a renowned wrestler, was there. He had killed many men in contests of this kind. Orlando, the young man he was to wrestle with, was very slender and youthful, and Rosalind and Celia thought he would surely be killed as others had been. So they spoke to him, and told him that he should not attempt to fight such a dangerous man. But this only made him want to win more, so that he could win praise from such sweet ladies. Orlando, like Rosalind's father, was also being kept out of his inheritance by his brother. He was so sad at his brother's cruelty that until he saw Rosalind, he did not care much whether he lived or died. But now the beautiful Rosalind gave him strength and courage. Orlando beat Charles so badly enough to knock him down. "What is your name?" asked Duke Frederick, impressed with the young man's courage. "My name is Orlando, and I am the younger son of Sir Roland de Boys," replied the young man. Sir Roland de Boys, when he was alive, had been a good friend to the banished duke. Frederick was sad to find who Orlando was and decided not to befriend him. But Rosalind was delighted to hear that this handsome young man was the son of her father's old friend. "Kind sir, wear this for me," Rosalind said as they were leaving the court, giving him a chain from her neck. Rosalind and Celia began to talk about the handsome wrestler when they were alone. "I fell in love with him at first sight," confessed Rosalind. "Look, here comes the Duke." With his eyes full of anger, said Celia. "You must leave the court right now," Frederick said to Rosalind. "Why?" she asked. "You are banished," he replied angrily. "If you are still within 20 miles of my court in 10 days, you will be executed." So Rosalind set out to find her father, the banished Duke, in the forest of Arden. Celia loved her too much to let her go alone. So Rosalind, being the taller one, dressed up as a young countryman, while her cousin dressed up as a country girl. They decided that Rosalind would be called Ganymede, and Celia, Aliena. By the time they arrived at the forest of Arden, they were very exhausted. As they were sitting on the grass, a countryman came by. Ganymede asked him if he could give them food. He gave them food and informed them that a shepherd's flocks and house were up for sale nearby. The two young women bought them and settled down as shepherd and shepherdess in the forest. In the meantime, Orlando's brother, Oliver, had made an attempt to take his brother's life. Hence Orlando also ran away into the forest. There he met with the banished Duke, and being kindly received, decided to stay with him. As the days went on, Orlando could think of nothing but Rosalind. So he went about the forest carving her name on trees, and writing love sonnets and hanging them on the bushes. One day, by sheer chance, they were found by Rosalind and Celia. A few days later, Orlando came across Ganymede and Aliena, but he did not recognize Rosalind in her boy's clothes. However, he liked the shepherd for looking similar to the one he loved. "There is a foolish man who runs around this wood and hangs sonnets on the trees," said Ganymede. "If I could find him, I would cure him of his foolishness." "I am the foolish man," Orlando confessed. "If you come and see me every day, I will pretend to be Rosalind," Ganymede said. "I will act as other women do until I make you ashamed for loving her." And so every day Orlando went to Ganymede's house, and he took pleasure in saying to him all the pretty things he would have said to Rosalind. Ganymede had the secret joy of knowing that all his confessions of love came to the right ears. One morning, Orlando was on his way to visit Ganymede. He noticed a man asleep on the ground, and there was a lion crouching near him. The lion was waiting for the man to wake up, because lions will not prey on anything that is dead or sleeping. Then Orlando looked at the man and realized that it was his wicked brother, Oliver, who had tried to take his life. Orlando bravely fought with the lion and killed it, saving his brother's life. While Orlando was fighting the lion, Oliver woke to find his brother saving him from a wild beast at the risk of his own life. This made him repent of his wickedness, and he begged for Orlando's forgiveness. From then on they became very close. Orlando could not go on to see the shepherd because the lion had badly injured his arm. So he sent his brother to ask Ganymede to come to him. Oliver went and told the whole story to Ganymede and Aliena. Aliena was so charmed by his manly way of confessing his faults that she fell in love with him. Oliver suddenly fell in love with her, as he observed how much she pitied the distress he told her. But when Ganymede heard of the danger Orlando had been in, he fainted and fell to the ground. Oliver ran back to his brother and told him everything that had happened. "I also love Aliena," Oliver said to his brother. "I will give my estates up to you and marry her and live here as a shepherd." "Let your wedding be tomorrow," said Orlando. "I will ask the Duke and his friends to come." That night, Orlando went to see Ganymede. He once again confessed his love for Rosalind and said he was envious of his brother for meeting the love of his life. "If you love Rosalind so much, when your brother marries Aliena, you should marry her," Rosalind said, still in Ganymede's dress and speaking with his voice. The next day, the banished Duke and his followers, Orlando, Oliver, and Aliena, were all gathered together before the wedding. Then Ganymede came rushing in and asked the Duke, "If I bring in your daughter Rosalind, will you give her to Orlando here?" "Of course I would," said the Duke. "He is the finest young man in all the land." "And will you have her as your wife if I bring her?" she asked Orlando. "Of course I would," he answered. Ganymede and Aliena went out together. Then Ganymede threw off his male attire, dressed in woman's apparel, and quickly became Rosalind. Aliena, dressed in her own rich clothes, also transformed into the Lady Celia. Rosalind and Celia, in their own clothes, entered again. Everyone was so surprised at their sudden appearance. They thought it to be some kind of magic. But Rosalind stopped making fun of her father and told him the story of her banishment, and of her dwelling in the forest as a shepherd boy, and her cousin Celia passing as her sister. Then she threw herself on her knees before her father and begged his blessing. "I give myself to you, for I am yours," she said. "If what I'm seeing is true, you are my daughter," he said. Then Rosalind turned to Orlando and said, "I give myself to you, for I am yours. If what I'm seeing is true, you are my Rosalind," he said. So Orlando and Rosalind were married, and so were Oliver and Celia. In the meantime, Frederick, hearing that everyday men of great worth frequented to the forest of Arden to join the lawful duke in his exile, advanced toward the forest with his army to seize his brother and all his faithful followers. As he entered the outskirts of the forest, by a wonderful interposition of Providence, he met an old hermit. He had much talk with Frederick and in the end, completely succeeded in changing his mind. Frederick resolved to relinquish his unjust dominion, and spend the rest of his days in a religious house. He sent a messenger to his brother to give him back his dukedom, which he had usurped so long ago. This joyful news made the newlyweds, and the rightful duke all return to the kingdom, and they lived happily ever after. Have a nice day.